Hi, I'm Kirby Allison, and in today's video, I'm going to answer some of your questions from our YouTube channel. This is one of my favorite videos to film. This is our Q&A video, where I take your questions from the comments on our videos and answer them. First things first though, I thought it would be nice to do this over a nice cigar. I've got a 2014 Bolivar Corona. This is the Royal Corona, which is a beautiful cigar, 42 ring gauge, nice, almost 5-inch length. And this has been resting away in my humidor since 2014, so it's got a nice bit of age on it to mellow things out. Of course, we're gonna cut it with our El Casco cigar cutter. This is available on KirbyAllison.com. This is, of course, our Kirby Allison ashtray, glass ashtray. We have this in round and square. You can find that on KirbyAllison.com. And then I'm going to light this with my vintage Dunhill lighter. And I've learned not to rush this process as Eddie Sahakian from Davidoff of London taught me. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to light this properly, because that extra time is well worth it. Now, if you want to learn how to properly light a cigar, take a look at our video that we filmed with Eddie and Edward Sahakian at Davidoff of London. Of course, these two legends know how to light a cigar better than anyone else, and it is from whom I certainly have learned. So without further ado, let's get started. As I mentioned, these are comments and questions pulled from the comments that you have left on our videos. Of course, viewing and responding to your comments is one of my favorite things to do. I really do try to read them all and get back to as many as I can. And it's one of the things, of course, that I love most about this channel is the opportunity to see everyone engaging with one another, and of course, my opportunity to engage with all of you. So our first question is from the piece that we filmed in London with Kenton Haste on our video, are these tailors the best kept secrets in London? So this question or comment is from a Francesco Testa, and it reads, I really like your YouTube channel, and I would love it if you did a series of episodes, maybe filmed in Italy, on Made in Italy, and going to find the best tailors, emerging ones in my country. Greetings. So of course, Francesco, I guess, writing this from Italy. Well, Italy, that is a whole nother area that we would like to spend a ton of time exploring. Now, filming with Kenton Haste was just such a privilege. What I loved about Kenton Haste is that they were a little bit off the beaten path. Of course, everyone knows the Bespoke tailoring houses on Savile Row, but just around the corner, down the street, in some hidden little neighborhoods, there are exceptionally talented Bespoke tailors doing work at the absolute highest level, and Kenton Haste is certainly one of those. I was actually introduced to them from a few mutual friends kind of at the same time, Tom Chamberlain being one of them, and several other really well-dressed friends of mine. And one of the things that they all had in common, of course, is that they were using Kenton Haste. And I'm excited to say that on this most recent trip to London, we were able to film extensively with them. So we've got a ton of great content about to be released with Kenton Haste that I hope you guys all look forward to watching. Now, whenever it comes to Italy, we would love to travel to Italy, and one of the suggestions I might have is subscribing to our Patreon page. Our biggest constraint is just honestly more generous travel budgets. That is the most difficult part for us to get to these places. I go to London quite regularly for work within KirbyAllison.com. We do a lot of our sourcing into England, so we're there already, and it just makes sense for us to film there first. But there's no question that we would like to explore France and we would like to explore Italy, and I'm hoping to actually be able to accomplish some of that this summer. So if you have any suggestions for places that we should visit in France or in Italy, let me know in the comments section of this video. I'd love to hear what those are. And if you don't subscribe to our Patreon, of course, or our YouTube channel memberships, I really would ask you to take a look at that. It is just another way that you can support the content that we're filming on this channel. Speaking of Tom Chamberlain, editor of The Rake, up next is a comment on our Gentleman's Day Out video that I filmed with Tom, where we walked around London visiting some of our favorite shops and just talking about London's recovery kind of in this post-COVID era. This is from Max Mill 224, and his comment reads, "Great video. Especially loved the piece about florists. Big fan of their scents, and number 89 and Santal are in my rotation. Any chance you could convince them to make a run of the Mahan leather? I tried it based on your recommendation years ago, and I haven't been able to find a suitable replacement once my bottle ran out." So thank you for your comment. Of course, Floris is London's oldest perfumery and probably one of the oldest continuing operating perfumeries in the world, based on Jermyn Street. It is an iconic store and really is as much a part of the fabric of London as John Lobb or any of the Savile Row Bespoke tailoring houses. And in fact, they've been on Jermyn Street, as we saw in this video, for hundreds of years. And so it's an incredible heritage firm, the likes of which that you only find in London, and it's one of the reasons for the well-dressed gentleman there is no better place to shop. I mean, where else on one street can you find Davidoff of London on the corner, Bud Shirt Makers in the Piccadilly Arcade, Church's Shoes, Edward Green, Floris. There's just so much, it's hard to even know where to begin. Now, whenever it comes to Mahan leather, this is without question one of my favorite fragrances. And as you pointed out, unfortunately, it has been discontinued. It's really a tragedy in my opinion. Now, Floris has an incredible portfolio of fragrances, and there's so many great options. I actually just picked up a Honey Ode, maybe to try to replace this Mahan leather, but I still find just a special place in my heart for that Mahan leather. I actually spoke with Edward Bodenham about being able to produce a run of it for us, but unfortunately the minimum was something like 500 100 ml bottles. So as much as I enjoy that fragrance, and I know that there's a lot of you that would enjoy it, 500 seemed a little bit too high of a threshold for me. Now, one of our other ideas, though, that I'll share with you all now for the first time, is that whenever we're back in London in May, one of the things that I would like to do is to go through Floris's bespoke fragrance creation process. One of the things that makes Floris so unique, other than being able to walk in their door and just purchase a lot of these incredible fragrances off the shelf, is that they still have a bespoke fragrance creation process where, with an appointment, you can work directly with their perfumer in their back room that Tom and I were sitting in and create your completely one-of-a-kind bespoke fragrance. So I'd like to go through that process, film it, of course, for all of you, and then see if we can talk them into bottling a few extra of those to offer all of you through KirbyAllison.com. So stay tuned. If you think it's a good idea, maybe hit up Floris on Instagram to let them know that this is something they should do with us. But hopefully this is a video that we'll be bringing to you sometime this summer. So thank you, Max, for your comment. I'll do my best to try to get that Mahan leather back in stock. Otherwise, of course, check out all of the Floris fragrances that we do carry on KirbyAllison.com. Many, if not all of my favorites are listed on the website, of course, because we want to be able to extend these fragrances to all of you here in America. We're really hitting some of our highlights here. Another just banner video that I absolutely loved. This comment is from our Bespoke Shoemaking video with Dominic Casey. It's from Fibo Bartoli. It says, "Amazing video, both the shoemaking and the filming and editing. Seeing this makes you realize everything that goes into a bespoke pair of shoes, and you realize that the prices which seemingly high before are actually an incredible bargain." So of course, Fribo is referring to this texture piece that we filmed with Dominic Casey. Our lead videographer, Reese, filmed and edited that piece. And I have to say, he did an exceptional job, and we're looking to bring more pieces like this to the channel in the future. One of my plans is, as I go back to Europe this summer, I actually want to spend a few days, if not a week, with Dominic Casey in his workshop, because it is my goal to capture that full shoemaking process. I mean, my only disappointment about this piece was that we couldn't film the entire thing because we just had an afternoon to film it in, but rest assured, we will bring you more content like this to the channel. Now, the other point that you hit on, which I think is a very poignant and certainly very well observed, is that, you know, although the prices of a bespoke suit or a bespoke pair of shoes is high, especially whenever you compare it to mass-produced, factory-made Goodyear welted shoes, actually, if you look at the amount of work that goes into the shoe, it is, you know, could be argued an incredible bargain. The fact that you've got a single artisan, a shoemaker, or a small group of them, 2 or 3, because at most that's how many people are working on a single pair of bespoke shoes. So the fact that you've got 1 or at most 3 people working on a pair of shoes who have dedicated their entire life to this artistry, to me is incredibly romantic and is luxury at its highest level. The other thing about a bespoke pair of shoes that I think really underscores the value is just the longevity of them. I mean, for one, bespoke shoes are exceptionally comfortable because they were made for your feet, but because of the integrity of the work that goes into them, they can literally last a lifetime. With a simple resoling, which occurs less frequently on a pair of bespoke shoes because of the quality of the leather outsoles that are used, but with occasional resoling, you can quite literally have a pair of bespoke shoes last you your entire life. So although you don't see this happening too often with people that buy bespoke shoes because most of us are fanatics, but there's no reason that you couldn't buy 3 or 4 pairs of bespoke shoes, a black cap-toe Oxford, maybe a dark brown cap-toe Oxford, 1 or 2 other styles, and literally be done with dress shoes for the rest of your life. And I think that that is certainly something that we can all aspire to. And one final point is that although the product is exceptional, I mean, there is no finer shoe out there than a bespoke pair of shoes, sometimes I think there is a slightly misplaced emphasis on the product. Speaking for myself personally, one of the things that I've enjoyed most about the bespoke process are the friendships that come out of it. The opportunity to work with the maker, someone who is an artist, and get to know them throughout that bespoke process, and if you're lucky, ultimately come to call them a friend, to me is the greatest reward of the entire process. And at the end of that process, you end up with a beautiful pair of shoes that, for me, are a constant reminder of that entire process and those great friendships. And so that, to me, really is the true magic of the bespoke process. Thank you for your comment. We hope to bring you more of these videos, and of course, I'm going to shamelessly plug our Patreon and our YouTube channel memberships as a way that you can support this channel so that we can film more of this great content for all of you. Speaking of legendary shoemakers, this next comment is from our bespoke shoe fitting with legendary shoemaker Tony Gaziano. This was another video that we filmed on our most recent trip to London. And this is from the Racer Rich. It reads, a question I've always wondered about. When the shoe is brand new, i.e. the first wear, is it beneficial to tie it really tight so that it most conforms to the foot that initially stretched 2 millimeters, or is it better to be a bit loose to minimize how much that initial stretch is? So this is a great question and really gets into the nuance of how a pair of shoes breaks in. Leather, of course, is a natural material, and during the initial breaking in phase of a pair of shoes will stretch. Now, what the Racer Rich is referring to is the top of the shoe and the facing, between the 2 areas that tie together with the laces. There's always a little bit of a gap there. Now, during the bespoke fitting process, and Tony spoke about this specifically in this video, you want to ensure that there is enough of a gap so that when the leather stretches, that facing doesn't totally close. If the facing is totally closed, then you lose your ability to tighten the shoe if your feet have maybe shrunk a little bit, maybe it's a cold day. You want that room across the facing to allow the facings to open a little bit if your foot has swelled, maybe as it does throughout the day, or tighten if you need to, kind of as your foot shrinks, maybe on the colder months. So this is very important that there is enough of a gap for that to be able to happen, not too much of a gap that it's unsightly, and not no gap so that you can't tighten them at all. One of the things that I've particularly enjoyed about this process of filming with Tony is just the opportunity to see his exceptional attention to detail. I mean, this video in so many ways demonstrates why Tony is so well respected amongst shoe aficionados as being a true master. I mean, his understanding of how everything interacts together and how there's really second and kind of third derivatives, if you will, of how things all interact that really are not obvious or even intuitive. And Tony really has a command of all those different elements, and we talk a lot about those various ones in this particular fitting video. And so that's really fun to see. We actually filmed the second fitting with Tony on this most recent trip to London, So stay tuned. That video should be releasing soon. And one of the interesting things that we were working with in that video is that there was a little bit of extra gaping on the laces that he wanted to minimize. And his approach to solving that problem really was completely counterintuitive to me, and so well demonstrated his true mastery of bespoke shoemaking. So great observation there, great question, and thanks for asking it. Up next, we have another question from Max Mill 2224. This is from our final bespoke suit fitting with Eric Jensen of Sartoria Gallo. We filmed that here in Dallas in our studio. Of course, Eric Jensen is a good friend. It's been fun to see him kind of grow and develop his business. I knew him since before the days he was even out on his own as a bespoke tailor. First at Sartoria Jensen, and then merging with Sartoria Gallo to kind of form their New York cutting room. And it's been an absolute privilege as his friend to watch the evolution of his career. This comment reads, beautiful suit and great documentation of the process. Definitely a fan of Eric Jensen and his work. Would love to see an in-depth comparison of this suit versus your Flesser striped or pinstripe suit. Both are beautiful suits, but such different styles. It would also be great to hear your thoughts on how your style has evolved from that first pinstripe or triple bead stripe suit to this pinstripe suit. So this is a great question, and I think really speaks to, again, one of the things that I love about the bespoke process, and that is its breadth. So we've got two bespoke tailors, and they have very distinct house styles and very distinct approaches and just tastes, if you will. And so, you know, the Flesser suit went one way, a slightly more nuanced triple bead stripe that was something that Alan Flesser actually worked with the fabric mill to have woven specifically for him. He designed it. And then with Eric Jensen working with Dorme on that beautiful pinstripe suit, a really subtle pinstripe suit, an absolutely incredible Dorme fabric that I think showcases the luxury behind Dorme's fabric, the multi-dimensionality. Is it green? Is it blue? Is it gray? It kind of has all three of those colors integrated into it, which gives it visual dimension. And then of course that beautiful subtle pinstripe, I think really kind of pulls it together. Now, as far as the evolution of my particular taste, everyone knows on this channel that I skew slightly to the conservative side. I mean, look at me today, nice kind of black odd jacket, our sovereign grade basket weave tie, white shirt. It's these kind of rules, these kind of iconic looks that I think always look great and are easy to wear. But it's fun to experiment a little bit. That triple bead pinstripe suit with Alan Flesser, that was the first time I added any pinstripes to my wardrobe. It's fun to be able to add a second pinstripe with Eric Jensen. And again, this is just part of that evolution of one's wardrobe. The other thing that has changed, I would say, is my trouser position. Whenever I first started having my trousers made, I always had them made with tabs. I've never had a pair of trousers made with belt loops. I'm just not a big fan of belts. Now, we sell some great belts here in Kirby, Allison for those that enjoy them. But if you're having a suit made, I always was of the opinion that you had tabbed trousers made. It just was one of those other kind of subtle details, much like working buttonholes on the cuff, that just differentiates a bespoke suit from something that would otherwise be purchased off the rack. So I've always been having trousers made with tabs, but one of the things that's been a recent evolution is increasing the rise even higher so that the waistband sits on the natural waist, and then having my trousers cut generously in the waist so that they can be worn with braces. Now, this to me has probably been the greatest kind of evolution of recent because a pair of properly cut trousers for braces are amongst the most comfortable you could ever wear. Having them hang on the shoulder, having that extra room in the waist so you don't feel like the waistband is really kind of tight around the waist, and then having it just always hang at the perfect level, to me is just the pinnacle, and I've enjoyed it so much. So all of the trousers that I've had made recently are all exclusively cut for braces. And of course, shameless plug for KirbyAllison.com. We have an extensive range of handmade braces that we offer on our website for those of you that do enjoy braces, so make sure you check those out. So there we have it. That's our Q&A video. I hope you enjoyed these comments and being able to hear me explain them in a little bit greater depth. Of course, for those that watch the channel, make sure that you give us a thumbs up and take a moment to comment on our videos. I really do take the time to read all of them, and I try to respond to as many as possible. And I always enjoy seeing your take on our videos and then just hearing you share your own personal experiences. So if you're watching a video and feel compelled to say something, make sure you let me know what that is in the comments section. Of course, if you haven't visited KirbyAllison.com, please do so. It is the best way to support this channel, and there you'll find the largest collection of luxury garment care, luxury shoe care accessories in the world, as well as other great clothing accessories for the well-dressed, like our collection of sovereign grade dress ties. I'm wearing one of my favorite, the basket weave. If there was ever a Kirby Allison club tie, this would be it, and we've just recently restocked these. Of course, our braces, pocket squares, socks, and so much more. You can find that on KirbyAllison.com. And if you're not interested in visiting KirbyAllison.com, check out our Patreon page. We've just launched this as a new way to support the channel. The idea behind the Patreon page is that it allows those of you who really want to support this channel and the content we film to do so. 100% of all the funds raised through the Patreon will exclusively support our travel budgets. So if you want to see us get to a place like Italy or Japan, this is going to be what allows us to do that. Of course, I'm Kirby Allison, and I love helping the well-dressed acquire and care for their wardrobes while exploring the world of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition. Thanks for watching.